Today, I'm going to give you in order the top 12 wide receivers in fantasy football. We know this is the most important position to get right every single year. So mine are not quite the industry standard. I think my rankings are definitely a little bit unique. Nothing crazy, but I do have some player takes that I need to get off my chest. Some players that I really think are high, some that I think are low. And we're going to start off with number 1, Tyreek Hill. I'm not a CeeDee Lamb guy. I love him. He's going to do great this year, but Tyreek Hill is the wide receiver 1. He's the best wide receiver in football. And last year, he strictly had so much less opportunity than CeeDee Lamb, and he still did just as well, if not better. Before the ankle injury in week 14 against the Titans, he was averaging over 26 points a game, and then he kind of fell off a little bit. He had to miss a game, had to deal with that high ankle sprain, and we know, especially for running backs and wide receivers, that high ankle sprain is just a season ender. That is something that you really don't come back from. You try to play through, but it severely limits you, especially a speedster like him, and I just don't think he was quite the same. I've mentioned this stat before, but he ran nearly 200 less routes than CeeDee Lamb. He is going to increase that number. If he gets over 500 routes this year, he ran 448. If it goes over 500, he is just going to absolutely ballistic, and I really think he has the best chance of any receiver to go for over 2,000 yards. My wide receiver 2 is going to be Justin Jefferson. This is purely talent-based. I really do think he's a better wide receiver than CeeDee Lamb by a good gap. By the end of the year, CeeDee averaged 23.7 points per game, and over Justin's last 4 games, when he finally came back from the hamstring injury, he averaged over 22 per game. That was with Nick Mullins. Now, if he develops any chemistry with J.J. McCarthy, that could be 23, 24 points per game. I think CeeDee Lamb, that was his ceiling. Justin Jefferson, that was his floor. It's going to go up. He's the better talent, and he's still going to average over 10 targets a game. Not to mention, Kevin O'Connell wants this offense to be super pass happy. That is the style of coaching he does. We saw it with every single quarterback who played in that system last year. Doesn't matter who it is this year. I also think while that defense did play well last year, schematically, they blitzed a ton. I think they're going to be a little bit worse this year and get themselves into a lot more shootouts, causing the Vikings to throw as much as possible. Now, number 3, we finally get to CeeDee Lamb. I already talked enough crap about him. He's a great receiver. CeeDee ran over 650 routes last year. That was up there in the top of the league. He had the most targets at 181. I think everything was perfect for him last year. It's going to be similar this year, but I don't think he has quite as many huge games towards the end of the season, making him finish around the 22 to 22.5 points per game mark. That's still great. That's still super respectable, and I completely understand if you want to play it safe and draft him, but he is my wide receiver 3. Wide receiver 4 is going to be Jamar Chase. This is a change in the rankings. I almost also wanted to put him over CeeDee Lamb because Joe Burrow is back and throwing in practice, and I don't have to worry too much more about that wrist injury. I've told you guys a bunch, no quarterback has really ever had to come back from that, and a lot of players that have had the injury say they deal with a lot of pain the next season and for the rest of their lives, but he's back and throwing and looks pretty good. Haven't heard anything bad about it right now, so I'm going to take the high road with Jamar Chase and assume he has a bounce back great season, maybe something that can even beat what he did his rookie year. The downside here is T. Higgins did sign that franchise tag, so he is back, so I don't think he quite has that Tyreek Hill type of upside, but something like 1,600 yards and 12 plus touchdowns is well in the realm of possibilities. Wide receiver 5 is Aman Ross St. Brown, easily averaging over 20 points a game. He's in the 2nd to 3rd best offense in the league, a great offensive line that gives Jared Goff a ton of time in the pocket. We know Goff is very different when he has time or when he's under pressure, plays so much better not under pressure. Sneakily, Amon Ra had the 3rd most red zone targets in the league last year at 25, and while Laporta, David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs all had a ton of touchdowns last year, I think Amon Ra sneakily has upside for like 14 to 15 in this great offense if they stop running the ball quite so much on the goal line. And he kind of got unlucky a lot of the time in the past 2 years falling down at the 1-yard line. There should be a little bit more positive touchdown regression here. There are reports from camp that Jameson Williams is becoming a much better deep threat. I don't think that's going to take away at all for Amon Ra's target share. It just offers a different angle for this offense and maybe even opens up Amon Ra even more. 6 is Garrett Wilson, who is very similar to Amon Ra in my eyes, but he's a better route runner and better downfield. He's obviously a better player in my opinion, and now that he has Aaron Rodgers back from injury, I think he could really have that Devonte Adams type of role, especially around the goal line. We saw in that one preseason game that they played, they have that type of mind meld where as soon as Aaron Rodgers checks something in the line of scrimmage, you know that ball is going instantly to Garrett Wilson. They had a couple really nice plays, a really nice fade touchdown, and some good screen stuff to get him some easy looks for 10 yards. If they can manufacture him touches like that, he is going to have an insane season. I really could see 1,600 plus yard upside. I would say if there's one thing to worry about, it's that this offense could play very slow. They have an amazing defense that may not get them into many shootouts, and Aaron Rodgers does not mind playing extremely slow. Back in Green Bay, the Packers were one of the slowest teams in the NFL. Plus, they have Breece Hall, a great running back, which will drain a lot of the clock. So if you want a concern about Garrett Wilson, that would be it. 7 is A.J. Brown, a tale of 2 halves of the season. He was great in the beginning. People were starting to compare him to Tyreek Hill. That was ridiculous. And then second half of the year, he kind of fell off a little bit like Stephon Diggs. The whole offense really fell off. I think he's going to bounce back. This offense shouldn't be quite as bad as it was last year. That was mainly due to just some horrendous play calling. That should improve. But factoring that Jalen Hurts is not quite as as good as everyone thought he is. Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert there for some target competition. Now Saquon to really bolster up that run game. I think 14 to 1,500 yards is probably his upside case, with about 10 to 12 touchdowns being his upside for touchdowns. 8 is Puka Ngata. You guys know how much I love this Rams offense. Matthew Stafford has real 5,000-yard throwing potential here. If they play quick enough and they play from behind enough, now that they don't have Aaron Donald on defense, the offense should be having to play a little bit more catch-up. I think that Cooper Kupp and Puka Ngata could both go for like 1,500 yards, and I would not be shocked. Now, I do think he needs to take a second-year leap to keep up with that consistent production he had last year. Because Cooper Kupp was injured for most of those games, it gave him a lot of just free targets and free time to get acclimated with the offense, where he didn't have to overcome anybody in the depth chart. Now this year, Cooper Kupp, in my eyes, is still probably the wide receiver one, but if Puka can take that second-year leap, he could be in store for another 1,600-yard season. Mine is Devonte Adams. I am way higher on him than anybody else in the industry. It is so hard for me in all my best ball drafts. I've drafted about 60 paid leagues so far of $25+ buy-ins. It's so hard for me not to draft him in every single second round because I view him so much higher than Chris Olave, Drake London, Brandon Ayuk, any of those guys, Jalen Waddle. I'm a fan of those guys, but not in the same realm as Devonte Adams. He is still a top 3 receiver in the NFL. He's the best wide receiver in terms of route running by far. The dude just got a horrible break last year with Aiden O'Connell and Jimmy Garoppolo, and the offense for some reason for a couple weeks just not wanting to throw him the ball. They were giving a ton of the work to guys like Jacoby Myers, who's just absolutely ridiculous. Josh Jacobs was still getting a ton of work even though he played like crap last year. Devonte, in my eyes, from a film standpoint, did not fall off at all, and now he gets a guy who threw Michael Pittman Jr. 9.9 targets per game. That was like top 7 in the league or top 5 in the league. Devontae is a much better receiver than Michael Pittman ever has been, and Gardner Minshew entering the situation can easily pepper him with a ton of targets and make him fantasy relevant again. Not to mention the loss of Josh Jacobs. I think Devontae will be the main goal line threat. All you have to do is just throw him a little fade or let him just do a nasty little inside slant, and like the dude is going to be open no matter what. I could see 15+ touchdowns. I think if there's a receiver that could actually push for 20 touchdowns this year, obviously Hill is up there, but a lower tier guy would be Devonte Adams that has a real shot at that. 10 is going to be Marvin Harrison. This is a match made in heaven with Kyler Murray. We remember when DeAndre Hopkins first got there, he had a 1,400-yard season. I realistically could see like 1,300 yards just because he'll probably start off a little slow for Marvin Harrison. But him and Kyler Murray, it's going to be great. Kyler Murray had to throw the ball a bajillion times to Trey McBride last year, and we saw how we view him now. Trey McBride in dynasties, like the tight end too, everybody loves him. But I think that Marvin Harrison is going to take a lot of that work, and he's so proven in the NFL already, in my opinion. Obviously he hasn't played, but like his play style just works so perfectly. He's going to walk into league and probably be very, very pro ready. So I'm excited about this. Their defense is not great. They're going to be a lot of shootouts, and Kyler is going to have to do Kyler things, which means he's going to be insane in fantasy. He's going to be scrambling around, throwing some absolute deep bombs to Marvin Harrison. It's just a great fantasy environment to be a part of. They don't have to deal with Cliff Kingsbury anymore. That's what D-Hop had to deal with. I think this offense is a much better run now, and he should see good opportunity. 11 is Cooper Kupp. I know I've talked about him enough already this season, but you're going to keep hearing me talk about him. Injured 3 separate times last year, came in with the ankle injury, hurt his hamstring, hurt his ankle again last year, used him as a decoy in the playoffs and most of the latter half of the season. I'm telling you, him and Puka are going to combine for like 4,000 yards together. It's going to be a beautiful sight to see. I'm in on this Rams offense. I won't give you too much more details because I talk about him enough, but yeah, Cooper Kupp at 11. And then number 12 could go between a lot of guys. I like Mike Evans, I like Jalen Waddle, a couple of those guys. I'm going to go with Deebo Samuel, who averaged 16.2 points per game last year compared to 15.6 from Brandon Ayuk. And the thing with Deebo is he missed 2 games with an injury, and he left 3 of them early. If you take away the 3 that he left early, he averages 18.5 points per game. That is the wide receiver 6 on the season. I think he has true upside now that Ayuk may not even be on the team. We saw reports, we saw the phone call with Jaden Daniels between him and Ayuk, which said, I basically don't know if the team wants me anymore. He could get traded. He has a lot of trade value, and they did draft some rookie wide receivers. So if Deebo Samuel gets this full backfield, I say backfield, but wide receiver room to himself, he's basically a running back at this point though. He's going to get so many schemes of touches to him. We could see a revival year like the 2021 season, I believe, or 2020 season, whatever it was when he had, you know, the insane 18 yards per catch. He won't do that again, but he's going to get so much schemed up touches near the line of scrimmage. He will be scoring a ton of touchdowns again this year. All right, guys, drop like 50 likes in this video. I'm going to get out my top 12 running backs. Drop a comment what other types of videos you want to see. Follow me for more, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.